so much for taking the time to talk about MEAD. Great film, by the way. I loved everything about it. I haven't watched a good sci-fi film in this year at all, and I gotta say this one is top. So I really enjoyed it.
Wow, thank you. That's quite a compliment from you. Thank you.
So how did this come about? Because I understand that you adapted a comic book here. How did the whole thing come from beginning to end, and how you made the final film?
That's right. When I was 12 years old, I was, into comics like all of us kids were, and the average cost of a comic was 12 cents, Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't spend all my lunch money at school, and on the way home, I'd stop at the grocery store and, have saved back enough to get a comic or two. And one day across the street from the grocery store was a head shop that just opened up, and I didn't know what a head shop was, but I was walking by it and saw in the window, they had this huge rack of comics, bigger than the grocery store had. So I went in there and I just kind of, the bell rings. I still remember this like it was yesterday. And there was a guy running the place, had this big beard, ponytail hair, granny glasses, hippie from hell. Looked like Phineas Freak from the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, And I went up and just kind of looked at the covers, and right in the middle was this big pink, with green font Fever Dreams comic. And I saw it and I kind of looked at it close, but I didn't touch it. And I left because it was 50 cents and I didn't have that much money, so I had to save it. And I went the next day and went in, got it, and then I looked at it and it said adults only. And I went, oh boy. So I put my thumb over adults only, and it worked. And I asked the guy, what's this comic book about? And he goes, things. So I read the story, and it's called To Meet the Faces You Meet. And it was the story that's the MEAD movie, but it was just a 16-page thing. It was illustrated by Richard Corbin, who, Heavy Metal magazine, you name it. The Heavy Metal movie, his character Den was the central glue for all the stories. And I was already a Corbin fan because I was reading Vampirella and Eerie and Creepy. Heavy Metal hadn't come out yet. That was until late 70s. So I just loved this story. I took it home. I had to hide it from my mom, of course, because it had a little bit of nudity and gore and stuff in it. And after I read it, the 12-year-old me was already making 8mm movies with my grandpa's film camera. And I literally said, I'm going to make a movie about this someday. So I got to know Richard in the 90s. I met Richard and actually hired him. I was an agency guy by then, doing a lot of TV ads and stuff. And I needed an animation of a kind of this dinosaur-like alligator for a company called Grass Gator. It was a national lawn company. And I thought, I'll call Richard Corbin and see if he'll do the gator for me. And he did. And we worked together from then on till, he passed away December of 2020 at 80 years old, and didn't get to see the finished movie. And I'm real sad about that. But that's kind of the genesis of where the comic book turned into. And then I worked with Jan Stranad, who worked at Disney for 20 years. He wrote the second Aladdin movie, Return of Jafar. And did Goof Troop and stuff like that. But he'd written the original comic, and Richard introduced us, and we've become really good friends. And he kind of co-wrote it with me. So that's how it turned from a comic book into a movie.
That's amazing. And I gotta tell you, man, this cast is stellar. Like Patton Oswalt as MEAD was just brilliant. I think that's like the best casting ever. And Patrick Warburton as Timmy was hysterical just as well. But Robert Picardo, he's legend in my book.
Yes.
What was it like working with these guys in the movie?
All three of them were amazing. They're good guys. Worked with Patton first, and actually we were after John Lithgow to play MEAD. That's who was in my head when I wrote the script, and he was wanted to do it. And then after about 3 or 4 months, he was just getting real panicky because he had 3 other projects in the queue that he didn't have start dates for. And he was just scared. He just said, I'm just scared I'm going to screw you. You're going to need me, then I'm going to be gone for a year. And so finally we just decided, he kind of passed and said, I'm sorry. I'd love, this is a cute thing. I'd love to do it, but I just don't want to commit. So his agent handled Warburton and Oswalt. So they presented both of them as ideas, and another, I can't remember who it was. And originally I wasn't going to hire a name talent for Timmy. He was such a small part. So I didn't think I'd do. So I hired Patton, and worked with him. I went to a studio called Margarita Mix in North Hollywood and met with him there. And we did it in one day. And he was just, his performance was amazing. And he had a method that was odd to me, that he didn't want to read the script before he recorded it. He was, I want to experience this like the character would. I don't want to know what's happening next. I'd never had an actor do that. And it made me really nervous, made Jan nervous too. We went in there and it worked. I mean, when you hear his performance, I mean, part of it's because he didn't know that was going to happen. And so he was in the moment, almost real time through the movie, you know, because we did it chronologically from stem to stern. And then when we got done early because he's so damn good. And I did the thing that they did with Robin Williams. I said, okay, I'm going to go through the script and give you some scenarios and have you do some ad libs. And he said, okay. And he did them, and we used every one.
Wow, that's unheard of. Like, I never would imagine someone just going ad lib practically through his whole shtick. Then again, you know, we've had cases of that before, but to see it in something of this caliber, it's just mind-blowingly amazing.
And then you asked about Picardo. He and I kind of became friends over the year and a half prior to the principal photography. In retrospect, now I know he was going to do this no matter what. But I told him, I just don't have enough money. I mean, I have a casting person in Vegas who handles all those Star Trek people. I mean, John Delancey and, all those people. And they'd hooked me up with him because they said, he's perfect, but you can't afford him. And Bob asked, well, what do you got? And I told him, this is what I've got. And that's all I'm going to offer, because it's what I have in the bank set aside for all these actors. And here's what I have for yours. He says, yeah, usually I get this much. And I said, you were worth like 3 times that, but I can't afford you. And he just kept calling, you know, a week or two later, hey, what's going on? And we talk about it a little bit. I was just looking at your animations again. God, so cool. And finally, he accepted my number. And on that phone call, I said, I'm going to go ahead and give you what you asked for and raised it up. And I think I had him then. That's when he and I got to be friends. And so when he was here, he stayed at my house and he cooked for me every night. He's an incredible cook. He's Italian. I mean, I believe he came to America with his parents, not a citizen, if I remember right. But he's the most warm guy, creative guy, and absolutely the funniest man I have ever been in the presence of. He's so dry and witty and intelligent. I mean, you know, his best friends are like Bill Nye the Science Guy, you know.
Yeah, I kind of saw that in his performance. So some of the lines that he pulled off, they were more like, they were kind of laughable, but in a good way. I'm not saying it hindered at his performance.
Well, that's a really good point.
Yeah, he's more like he's like a more smart alecky type.
Yeah,
that's what I really like. I like those type of characters.
Well, he took that character to a whole different place. I hadn't planned to screw with that character quite so much. And he enjoyed that. He enjoyed trying to find that balance of being menacing and believable and dangerous to the heroes. And yet, you know, he gets his hand chopped off and his hand short circuits and he asks for decaf coffee. He had a lot more that we didn't use that just got to the verge of just hilariously lampooning, to the point where I think it would have diminished the menace factor a bit. So, yeah, but he was so great.
Yeah, the scene I loved where when Friz and Mead pull up this monster and then they're eating a spaceship and he's like, no, it's an illusion. She goes, well, that illusion is eating my spaceship.
Eating my ship.
That cracks me up.
Well, and I kind of had I'm not saying I emulated a Pixar template, but their movies are always perfect. The story arc, the performances, the balance of tension and humor, like in The Incredibles, and Mr. Incredible, at one point he thinks his family's dead, so it gets pretty deep and dark, and then you pull it back out. So I kind of had that idea that the humor is really important, but to keep that balance where you don't get into the hilarious ha-ha to the point where you don't believe the danger. That was my goal here, is to try to get that. And Jan helped me with that too. Jan's one of the best writers I've ever known, let alone worked with. He's just such a great writer. He was a friend of Harlan Ellison's. You know, he was real upset when Harlan died. And, his work reminds me of Harlan a little bit.
That's awesome. I gotta tell you, man, the visual effects are amazing on this. It must have taken you quite a while to get everything perfect on it, because they just looked so good. Like it felt like it just felt like I want to see more of that in a sci-fi movie. And I gotta know, how did you pull that off?
Well, this movie is a Guinness Book of World Records movie, and I'll tell you why. You're a movie guy, and maybe you're the guy who will find the movie that did what ours did. But the criteria is this: it has to be to where everything in the film, except for the actors, live action actors, is animated. Everything, every chair, every table. There is no real rooms. They had nothing. They were in a green room, period. The closest thing we had to a piece of furniture is I did have in one scene a sheet of glass. It's the one where he puts the helmet box on, you know, Picardo. Other than that, it's all animated.
Oh my gosh.
So they had nothing. They had marks on the floor to know where they were going. We had Jan Stranad at the shoot holding a stick with a little mead head so they knew where to look. And the other thing that makes it pretty unique is the fact that I did all of it. One guy animated everything, all the models, all the lighting.
Wow.
Everything. So you were right. It took me 3 years. I had the whole movie done before we shot, from start, even the credits. And I had Patton in there because we did him early. So Patton's character, the head's floating around, but there's no other actors there. So we went to set with folders and folders of all the scenes. So before we shot an actor, I'd show them, this is the room you're in. This is where you'll be looking. Hey, Mead's over here. So that's how we did that. And it was crazy challenging for these actors.
Wow. 3 years. That's how long it took. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was to do the movie without actors. Totally done.
I don't think I've even heard of an A-list project that even came close to doing what you did, and you did it all yourself. That's just impressive.
Well, thank you. It's good to find that out, because I didn't even know if it was for sure going to work.
I gotta tell you, man, I think my son would take a little cue from you, because he's working on his own little animation projects now and again on his computer. I'm definitely gonna tell him about this movie. When I explain everything, I guarantee his jaw is gonna drop. He's probably gonna like, how do I?
You gotta email me a clip of that, because I want to see that. How old is he? How old is he?
He just turned 15 yesterday.
So see, he's about the age of filmmaker I was when I kind of got. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, he does like Minecraft animations, like with Minecraft blocks, and his biggest one was a Hulk transformation thing that he did himself, and I think it's gotten like, I think he told me that's 56,000 views already on YouTube. So it's just, but yeah, I'll send you that, because it's just amazing what and I think that's what he wants to get into eventually, something to do with animation. So I was like, I gotta tell him about this movie. I think he's gonna be in for a wild ride, especially when I tell him that you did everything yourself with the animation. I hope
he likes it. Yeah, I guess young audiences are going to like this. I mean, you know, we've not had to rate it because it's not going to have a traditional theatrical release, although the theater that we did the test at asked us if they could do a limited run of the film. So, and we're going to say, absolutely, you know, knock yourselves out. And so they're going to do that. So that's the only theatrical release we're going to get. So we haven't rated it. I toned it down quite a bit from the first edit. The distributor asked if I could take some of the dams, a shit. There were no F-bombs or anything. Right. And at first I reacted like any other filmmaker. You want me to cut my baby? Yeah. But another guy, a really important film guy, a guy named Adam Wright, who hooked me up with this distributor, said, Jeff, just calm down. She said you can do anything you want. It's your movie. She can just sell it to more family-friendly venues if you do this. He goes, just go in, find the first dam, cut it out, see if it works. If it doesn't work for you, hit undo, move on to the next one. And I'll be darned, the lady was right. It made the tone of the film kinder. You didn't get caught up in vulgarities, and like I say, there weren't really any big ones.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's an adults only comic, and that's what I noticed. Right. It kind of you toned it down a bit, so it kind of
Yeah, I just wanted to,
You're looking for a bigger audience with it. I think that's what the intention was.
but I still didn't want to mess up Richard's story. Richard
Right.
McKinnon's story still had to be intact and stick to it. And there, there wasn't really much vulgarity in the comic, but boy, it opens up. Page 2 is a full frontal nude of a woman. In the opening scene, you see Frizz and Tam in that bed, and she's just an illusion. They're getting ready to, get busy, but it never happens because she fades away. MEAD makes her go away.
Right.
So that is in the comic, but it's completely graphic.
Right.
And it's what stopped me from doing it for so long. I would have done this back in, about late 90s, early 2000s. I thank God I didn't, because the technology wasn't there yet to do what I did.
I agree.
There was no 4K, which this is all 4K. And yeah, thank God the nudity made me go, I'm going to do something else for a while. But I kept coming back to it.
Yeah, you've done your share of sci-fi films using, the technology now. And like I say, man, you did a good job on this one. So what's coming up next? Do you have anything planned now that's going to take another couple of years to work on, or you just
no,
it's a ride right now?
I'll never do it again like I did here. I'm too old to be able to get more than 2 projects done before I'm dead. So no, actually, a friend of mine, a guy named Jim Lammers, he owns a company called Trinity Animation out of Overland Park, Kansas. And they do a good part of the animation work for Archer. And I've known Jim for 25, 30 years. I mean, I bought my software I use from him because he's a dealer, the 3D Studio Max. But we've been friends for a lot longer than he worked on Archer. And he and I met up about a year and a half ago. He called me wanted me to tour his studio, an amazing place. And we showed his staff and animators a sizzle reel I had, and he and I went to lunch, and he said he and I both agreed we need to sell this as a series, or at least sequels, to either probably Hulu and FX might be receptive, because that's where Archer is. So that's the only thing that I have in my forecast we might do. Right now, I'm trying to kind of get over 6 years of working on this.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a long, but I'll tell you, it was definitely worth it, because this is an amazing movie. And the fact that you pulled off practically something that to others may seem impossible, I think you pulled it off nicely. You got it just right, in my opinion.
Thank you. It was impossible, and I can't believe I was able to pull it off. There were so many times when, COVID hit right in the middle of it like an asteroid, but COVID was a blessing in a way too. Not to say that all the people who lost their lives, I lost 2. That was a good thing, but it did slow us down and forced me to spend a lot more time on getting the casting just right and getting the props built and all the wardrobe. So we spent a lot more time on those things than we might have, because we had to.
Yeah, exactly. So MEAD will be out on August 9th. Everyone needs to check this out. Great visual effects, awesome cast, great story. And thank you again for taking the time to talk about the film. And it was such an honor to talk to you.
Well, great talking to you. Be sure people are watching out on Vudu, Prime, YouTube, Vimeo, all of the pay-per-views. It'll be on August 9th, and there will be some cable things available then too. Just check your local listings, and it'll be out there. DVDs will be, and Blu-rays will be available in September. And I think that's all the stuff the studio told me I needed to say.
Yes, you got to do what the studio tells you.
That's right.
Again, thank you so much. And I hope you take care and have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right.